to second night of the yearly finals. As you guys don't remember, if you guys don't remember, 4 trucks on night 1 were eliminated, and now there's 22 trucks remaining. Let's continue where we left off. Blue Thunder versus Nitroid. Nitroid got down there first. Gunkster versus Motosaurus. Gunkster moves on. Here's the top of Skyjacker again. So I ain't gonna fix him until the early finals are done with. Gravedigger versus Skyjacker. Gravedigger moves on. Twinmill versus Earthshaker. These trucks know what they're going up against, because they've done this before. Gonna move the trucks that lost up on the steps. And Skyjacker was also. Oh, Earthshaker's there. I'm just Twinmill. Let's bring him up. That's about where he was. It's Twinmill that moves on. Demo Derby versus Buns of Steel. Demo Derby moves on. Bone Shaker versus Digatron. Both right there. Digatron's gonna get moved down because he moves on. Mayhem versus Wildside. Mayhem moves on. I need to move more trucks. Digatron needs down here. You two up there. There's Mayhem. The Tomato versus Hot Wheels Racing 3. Hot Wheels Racing 3 moves on. Classroom Crusher versus Northern Nightmare. Custom Crusher moves on. Piranha versus Shark Wreck. Piranha moves on. Whiplash versus El Toro Loco. El Toro Loco moves on, I think. Gonna move El Toro Loco and Piranha down here. There we go. And move everyone else back in the bucket to race again. How's everyone? The Tomato versus Bone Shaker. Tomato moves on. Buns of Steel versus Shark Wreck. Shark Wreck moves on. Skyjacker versus Earthshaker. Skyjacker moves on. Northern Nightmare versus Wildside. Northern Nightmare moves on. Oh no, Motosaurus doesn't have someone to raise. He can cry. Blue Thunder versus Whiplash. I don't know who that was. We can go down and check. Gotta get Earthshaker first. Earthshaker. Outside. I'm gonna say Whiplash moves on. Down there, Whiplash. Bone Shaker. And then Buns of Steel. Motosaurus versus Blue Thunder. Blue Thunder moves on. Wildside versus Earthshaker. Earthshaker moves on again. Wildside's having trouble. Buns of Steel versus Bone Shaker. Buns of Steel moves on. Blue Thunder moved on. Get him down there. Wildside. Wildside, Bone Shaker, and Motosaurus. One of them is gonna have to wait to go head to head. One of them is gonna move on. There's two of them move on. One loses. Wildside versus Bone Shaker. Bone Shaker moves on. That means this time, Wildside being almost eliminated. Motosaurus versus Wildside. First truck gonna be eliminated tonight. Can't tell. Wildside is the eliminated one. Wildside's the first truck out. Time to get all these trucks in. See, Motosaurus moved on. Almost forgot about him. Bone Shaker versus Skyjacker. Bone Shaker moves on. Burst Shaker versus Demo Derby. I'll start moving the ones out failing. It was a good Shaker that moved on. And Demo Derby. I mean, no. Bone Shaker and Earth Shaker moved on. Digatron versus Mayhem. Digatron moves on. Piranha versus Buns of Steel. Buns of Steel moves on. The Tomato versus El Toro Loco. El Toro Loco moves on. Gangster versus Blue Thunder. Gangster moves on. Twin Mill versus Gravedigger. Gravedigger moves on. Motosaurus versus Northern Nightmare. I have no idea. Motosaurus moves on. So did Gravedigger. Musi up. Classroom Crusher versus Whiplash. Classroom Crusher moves on. Nitrade versus Hot Wheels Racing 3. And Nitrade moves on. Whiplash versus Hot Wheels Racing 3. Hot Wheels Racing 3 moves on. Twin Mill versus Skyjacker. Twin Mill moves on. Blue Thunder versus Northern Nightmare. Northern Nightmare moves on. The Tomato versus Demo Derby. I don't know. Demo Derby moves on. Mayhem versus Shark Wreck. Shark Wreck moves on. Yeah, but Shark Wreck really moves on. Blue Thunder versus Skyjacker. Blue Thunder moves on. Whiplash versus Mayhem. Mayhem moves on. Piranha versus the Tomato. The Tomato moves on. Alright. Skyjacker, Piranha, and Whiplash. Piranha versus Whiplash. Whiplash moves on. Piranha versus Skyjacker. Let's see who is going to be the second one out. Piranha moves on. Skyjacker is out. Too bad that Skyjacker and Wildside are out. Wildside was one of my favorite trucks. There's 3 more still in. I probably just jinxed it. Man, it's dark in here. Blue Thunder versus Hot Wheels Racing 3. Blue Thunder moves on. Gravedigger versus Shark Wreck. Gravedigger moves on. El Toro Loco versus the Tomato. El Toro Loco moves on. Nitrate versus Northern Nightmare. Nitrate moves on. Okay, fuck it. The ones on the stairs will not move on. The ones that make it down will. But a Source of Mayhem move on. Classroom Crusher and Demo Derby. Classroom Crusher makes it down. Whiplash and Gangster. Whiplash makes it down. Piranha versus Twin Mill. They both made it down. Buns of Steel versus Bone Shaker. Bone Shaker is safe. And Digatron versus Earthshaker. Why? Time to get the ones on the stairs. Oh, looks like they're both safe. Nitrate versus Gangster. Nitrate moves on. The Tomato versus Demo Derby. Both made it down. Shark Wreck versus Northern Nightmare. They did not make it down. Gravedigger versus Hot Wheels Racing 3. Hot Wheels Racing 3 made it down. Now we get to see if Buns of Steel can make it. Sorry, dry throat again. Already. Only 5 remain in the elimination race. Everyone's putting up a good fight. Sharkwreck versus Northern Nightmare. And they did not make it down. Buns of Steel. And a Gangster. Buns of Steel moves on. And now Gravedigger. Gravedigger moves on. 3 trucks left. Yo, where'd he go? Oh, found him. There's Buns of Steel. Northern Nightmare, Gangster, and Sharkwreck. Now we're gonna race these ones. Normal. Gangster versus Sharkwreck. Sharkwreck moves on. That means one thing. Northern Nightmare versus Gangster. Gangster moves on. Northern Nightmare is out. Ending up with 3 other truck-bodied trucks. I'm coming down without the bucket. That's ridiculous. One more elimination spot, and then this video will end. I'm gonna go back to what I was doing with the others. First time. Mayhem and Twin Mill. Twin Mill moves on. Digatron and the Tomato. Bone Shaker and Earth Shaker. Earth Shaker moves on. That was Nitrade. Domo Derby. Always Racing 3 and Whiplash. Buns of Steel and Gravedigger. did not make it. Shark Wrecking Classroom Crusher. Both made it down. El Toro Loco and Piranha. El Toro Loco was on. Metasaurus and Blue Thunder. Metasaurus moves on. And Gungster. Gungster moves on. But where the hell is he? I need you right there, Gungster. The Tomato. Digatron. Piranha and Gravedigger. Gravedigger moves on. Blue Thunder and Bone Shaker. Bone Shaker moves on. And finally, Buns of Steel versus Mayhem. Buns of Steel moves on. 3 trucks. Blue Thunder versus Piranha. Blue Thunder moves on. And that means Mayhem versus Piranha. Mayhem moves on. Piranha is out. Thanks for tuning into night 2 of the yearly finals. I'll see you next time.